Hey, what's up, guys? So, yesterday was the day. Donald Trump had the North Korea summit, and I would say it was about as successful as the event could have been. That's probably not what you would be getting if you're watching CNN, but that's the truth. It was a good moment for Donald Trump, probably a good moment for world peace in general, and another great example of why the mainstream media is dying, why the legacy media is just a pathetic attempt at fooling the American people. That they can't even pull off what they used to be able to. But if you just watch any of the coverage, my I was hanging out with my buddy Owen Benjamin the other day, and there's something Owen says all the time that I really love. And he says I might be wrong, but I'm not lying. And if you look at the mainstream media, and this is just the coverage of the North Korea summit's just one example out of thousands. It's not that they're wrong; it's that they're lying. It's that they're lying. And this is why people in record numbers are turning away from the legacy media. It's not that they're wrong. It's that they're full of it. And just imagine as a thought experiment, let's say that let's say Barack Obama had this summit in North Korea. And Barack Obama went and met with Kim Jong-un and outlined, the rough blueprint of what would be a peace deal. The MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News would all switch places 180 degrees. No question about it. As MSNBC and CNN would be talking about what a great moment in diplomacy this is, and how Obama deserves another Nobel Peace Prize, and what a great statesman he is, and how he was able to bring peace where no other president could. And Fox News would be outraged about how he's making America look weak on the global stage, and he's praising a dictator. And I mean, you could see all of it. You could see Sean Hannity just devoting his entire show to how terrible this deal was. No, but because you switch the D and the R, one's their guy instead of being the other guy, and they just switch positions just like that. So anyway, yeah, it was a success. The summit was as much of a success as any of these things can be. Usually, these deals are all a little bit kind of phony, but look, it reminds me, like, nothing was ever a phonier deal than Obama's Iran deal, and I was still for that just because it took the pretense of war off the table. And the truth is that if you listen to the mainstream media, they'd be like, with the Obama Iran deal, they'd say, well, Obama gave a bunch of money to Iran, and in return, Iran promised to give up its nuclear program. The truth of the matter is that the money was never ours. It was frozen Iranian assets that an international court had ruled we had to give back to them. And Iran never had a nuclear program to begin with. So it was all just made up, but it doesn't matter. The deal was still a good thing because it took the pretense for war away from the neocon hawks and the Democratic establishment, the left-wing neocons, who all wanted war with North Korea, with Iran for a long time now. So the same thing's true with North Korea. The deal is just good because it takes the excuse for war away from a lot of these maniacs who are, North Korea is this rogue nation that will, doesn't care about its own self-preservation. And, if they get a nuke, they'll use a nuke, except they've had a nuke for a while now. They're coming to the negotiation tables. So clearly they do care about their own self-preservation. Shocking, like most human beings, tend to. Yes, Kim Jong-un cares probably about nothing as much as he does about his own self-preservation. So anyway, Donald Trump went over there. He met with Kim Jong-un, seemed to have a positive response to it. They signed what's kind of like a informal agreement, and Kim Jong-un agreed to denuclearize. Donald Trump agreed to stop the war games in South Korea, which, like, oh my God, what a concession. Yeah, so if you listen to any of these, the neocon maniacs who somehow still have positions, they all should be completely discredited by now. The group of people who promised we'd be greeted as liberators in Iraq and the war would be paid for in oil. These guys, Donald Trump made a concession. He made a huge concession without getting anything in return. Like, what normal human being? Who cares about that? Who you care about the concession that we will no longer be conducting war games excuse me, will no longer be conducting war games with South Korea. Does this affect your life in some way? Is this a major concession for you? This is why people are turning away from the mainstream media in such large numbers, because it's like this has nothing to do with anyone. It's amazing, like the neocons and all the war hawks, they really think that a threat to the American empire is the same thing as a threat to, like, I don't know, some voter in Illinois or something like that. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so look, we'll see what happens. A lot of times nothing comes of these deals. Bill Clinton, made a deal between the Israelis and the Palestinians back when it was Yitzhak Rabin and Yasser Arafat. And, the deal ended up falling apart. But I don't really see anyone in the mainstream media, or even anybody just doing revisionist history looking back at it, going like, man, what a terrible move it was for him to go over there and try to make peace. Yeah, Donald Trump did a good job. It's a little bit icky to have to say nice things about brutal dictators, but if Nixon can go over and say nice things about Mao Zedong, the Michael Jordan of genocide, the guy who is responsible for more deaths than Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin combined, if we can say nice things about that guy, whatever. You say some nice things, you do your dumb diplomacy act, and see what you can do. I mean, honestly, like I've said before, I don't really care nearly as much about getting rid of the nuclear weapons as I do about just trying to put some pressure on Kim Jong-un to ease up on the humanitarian stuff. But, for that matter, I wouldn't mind if Donald Trump would ease up on some of his humanitarian stuff as well. He's been doing all right at that in terms of, being open to pardon people for nonviolent crimes. And, I'd like to see him stop supporting the Saudis. Stop supporting the Israelis so much. By the way, that's a great, for the mainstream media, they're so, all of a sudden today you see reporting on the on the human rights violations of North Korea, and it's all just because there's talk of maybe working together. I mean, it's not like we still have sanctions on North Korea. It's not like we're doing business with North Korea. It's not like we gave them $100 billion worth of weapons. Oh, we did that with Saudi Arabia, and you don't see any mainstream media reporting about the human rights violations in Saudi Arabia, or Israel for that matter. So yeah, we've had no problem supporting countries, that treat their own people or treat the people around them horribly. And look, if it takes the prospect of war off the table, at least for a little bit, I don't see how you could see this as anything other than a big victory for Donald Trump. And believe me, it's going to be reflected in his approval ratings. They've been slowly climbing up already, but this is going to be seen as a good thing. And the mainstream media and the left wing of this country, who have just consistently been working as hard as they can to get Trump reelected. They got him elected, and now they're working on getting him reelected. The fact that they're pouncing on him for this, it's just, man, they just have no credibility anymore, and I think that overall that's a pretty good thing. So anyway, it was a victory for Donald Trump, a victory for Kim Jong-un, a victory for Dennis Rodman, and who now Dennis Rodman has officially done more for peace than just about anybody you know. So those are the weird times we're living in. Let that settle in for a little bit. Anyway, we'll see how this goes. There's absolutely no guarantee that things will progress smoothly. I mean, maybe Kim Jong-un completely does a 180 and pulls out of this. It's reasonable that you could see that coming. But so then what? So we're right back to where we were. I mean, everyone in the mainstream media was screaming, like crazy a few months ago when Donald Trump was tweeting mean things at Kim Jong-un. And believe me, I didn't like that either. I thought that was pretty reckless. But you can't bash him for tweeting aggressively and then also bash him for going over there and being kind. I mean, it's just absurd. Anyway, once again, it's a victory for Trump and a loss for the mainstream media. And we'll see how this plays out from here. But overall, if you're rooting for world peace, which you would assume, any rational, decent human being would be, then this was a pretty good day. Okay. We don't usually have too much to celebrate when you're rooting for world peace, but this is a good one. So that's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. with a new video. Thanks.